Welcome. I'm Catherine Hadro, and this is EWTN Pro-Life Weekly. Expanding abortion. The FDA will now allow abortion pills through the mail, causing an uproar amongst pro-lifers who say removing safety protocols will hurt more women. It's just one of the latest moves in a flurry of abortion-related actions. Plus, Planned Parenthood admits their founders' racist and eugenic roots in a New York Times op-ed. But is it enough? We discuss these stories and more with three prominent pro-life leaders. Birth control and blood clots. With the Johnson & Johnson vaccine paused over blood clot concerns, we take a close look at how hormonal contraception carries a much higher risk of blood clots for women. Dr. Monique Ruberu, a Catholic and pro-life OB-GYN, gives us the facts.
I can grapple all day with the fact that my life was spared and my twins wasn't, and what am I missing? And I'll never understand.
Sharing her story, abortion survivor and well-known pro-life speaker Claire Culwell has a new book where she shares her journey of forgiveness and redemption after being told she survived a botched abortion, even though her twin did not. We have a lot of news to get to this week as the Biden-Harris administration aggressively works to expand abortion, including now allowing for abortion pills to be distributed through the mail. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration last week announced that during the COVID-19 pandemic, it would allow for abortion pills to be prescribed and dispensed remotely, either through the mail or by mail order pharmacies. Pro-life groups have called this decision dangerous, and the U.S. bishop who chairs the pro-life committee, Archbishop Joseph Naumann, also weighed in. Naumann saying in part, quote, "By pushing women away from medical oversight, abortion advocates are luring women into isolated, unsafe, and medically unwise decisions. The inalienable dignity of women and their unborn children deserves so much more." The FDA's move is just one in a recent flurry of pro-abortion actions. Also last week, the HHS department released the text of its proposal to rewrite rules for the Title X family planning program, allowing once again for Title X dollars to go towards clinics that perform or refer for abortions. And in more unsettling news, the National Institutes of Health reversed restrictions on federally funded research using fetal tissue and organs of aborted babies. Here to discuss top pro-life headlines, we're joined on Skype by our panelists. Dr. Donna Harrison is the Executive Director for the American Association of Pro-Life Obstetricians and Gynecologists. Reverend Dean Nelson is the Vice President of Government Relations at Human Coalition. And Autumn Christensen is the Policy Director for the Susan B. Anthony List. Welcome to you all. Dr. Harrison, I'd like to start with you. In a statement released last week, your group said the FDA has turned a blind eye on the number of women suffering complications from medication abortions. As a medical doctor, what are your greatest concerns with the abortion pill now being distributed through the mail?
I have three grave concerns. One is that women hemorrhage and they have tissue left inside. By our estimates, there's probably about over 180,000 women who have been harmed already by these drugs. But in addition, when you dispense pills over the internet, this opens up the possibility for those pills to be used by pimps and abusers. No one actually knows who's going to get that pill when it's dispensed over the internet. And the third one is that women themselves are being led astray. They're being told that this abortion is as easy as pop a pill and poof, the pregnancy's gone. It's not like that. Weeks of bleeding, intense pain. None of this is being told to women. They're not getting adequate informed consent.
Autumn, you heard me share a litany of pro-abortion actions taken last week, from the abortion pill news to the nearing the reversal of the Protect Life rule to the NIH now resuming research on fetal tissue and organs of aborted babies. Give us the big picture view here. What's going on?
Sure. What we're seeing right now is the radical and fast-paced dismantling of the pro-life policies of the last administration. Those policies that you described are all things that they are quickly dismantling through the power of the White House. And then at the same time, this is in the context of numerous anti-life bills making their way through the House of Representatives to the Senate. Bills that would do things to enshrine a right to abortion, things like reviving the decades-old Equal Rights Amendment that would force abortion to be enshrined into our Constitution. And then right alongside of that is an effort to take a pro-abortion power grab and try to change the rules, to get rid of the filibuster in the Senate, to pack the court with more judges, breaking with the longstanding tradition of 9 justices. Even adding the District of Columbia as a state in order to add 2 more senators to the Senate. All of that designed to give them the power and the ability to move that radical abortion agenda through the Senate, where right now it is the power of the filibuster that is allowing those pieces of legislation that would so radically expand abortion be prevented from being enacted.
Dr. Harrison, one aspect of hope when it comes to abortion pills is the reality of abortion pill reversal. We spoke with Rebecca Hagan. She's a mother who took the abortion pill but then saved her baby's life because of abortion pill reversal. This is what she wants women to know about the abortion pill.
You are taking pills that were literally designed to cause a woman's body to dilate, to contract. You're going into labor with no medical supervision at home. And I think that you, as a young woman, deserve so much better than that. And I think your child deserves so much better than that.
Dr. Harrison, we're so grateful Rebecca was able to save her baby's life after taking the abortion pill. What should we know about abortion pill reversals?
Abortion pill reversal is the use of a natural hormone that a woman's body makes. That hormone's progesterone. The abortion pill blocks the woman's natural hormone progesterone. But the good news is if you take progesterone soon enough after taking the abortion pill, within 72 hours, you can triple the chances that this baby will survive the abortion pill poisoning from mifepristone.
Reverend Nelson, you work very closely with pregnancy clinics and with women in unexpected pregnancies. From your perspective, how does the FDA's decision to remove safety protocols on abortion pills actually hurt women?
It's a great question. Since our inception at Human Coalition over a decade ago, our commitment has been, number 1, to rescue children, and number 2, to serve women. And of the 100,000 women that we will serve this year, our greatest concern is with this new policy is that it is ultimately putting women at risk. I mean, the left has used so far, year after year, the claim that they are for women. But the reality is that without having some level of oversight, women are in greater danger. And so we are strongly opposed to this move from the Biden administration and are working closely with states to see if they can strengthen positions that would prevent this type of sale of the abortion pill into different states.
Switching gears a little bit, in an unprecedented admission, the president of Planned Parenthood wrote an op-ed in the New York Times admitting the need to reckon with Planned Parenthood founder Margaret Sanger's association with white supremacist groups and eugenics. Reverend Nelson, you slammed this op-ed as a fake reckoning. Tell us why you believe that, and what is Planned Parenthood trying to do right now with this op-ed?
Yeah, I believe that in the culture that we find ourselves in America, where we are addressing greater issues of race and inequity, Planned Parenthood is forced to deal with the fact that they have over 100 years perpetuated a system of racism. And so last year, 120 Black leaders signed on to a document that we sent to Alexis McGill Johnson, stating that Planned Parenthood needed to deal with this. And so on the one hand, I'm glad that they are acknowledging it, but at the same time, you can't acknowledge the racist founder and not deal with the practice. I mean, let's face it, Planned Parenthood continues to have surgical abortion facilities, 80% of them in African American or Latino communities. Their name is Planned Parenthood, but they do not empower women to parent. they sell abortions, which has had a horrible effect on our culture, both with women and the children that have been lost.
Autumn, is Margaret Sanger's eugenics vision still alive at Planned Parenthood today? What's your reaction to that New York Times op-ed?
Yeah, I just don't think it can be said enough that actions speak louder than words. So as we look at the actions of Planned Parenthood, you think about Margaret Sanger referring to feeble-minded individuals and the elimination of those who are unfit, and using that kind of approach. And then you think about Planned Parenthood today continuing to oppose common sense laws that would protect unborn children who have Down syndrome, or unborn children who have another disability, or the fact, as was previously mentioned, that Planned Parenthood locates itself in Black and brown communities and targets Black and brown unborn children. Those actions speak much louder than words. We can certainly hope that there would be a change in Planned Parenthood's approach, but so far we've seen absolutely no sign. They continue to carry out that same agenda in the actions that they take on a daily basis.
There's a lot of news this week. Thank you all for helping us to tackle it. Dr. Donna Harrison, Reverend Dean Nelson, and Autumn Christensen. Thank you all.
God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you. The CDC and FDA last week recommended a temporary pause in the use of Johnson & Johnson's COVID-19 vaccine over blood clot concerns that are being seen in women. The vaccine suspension quickly prompted discussion online about how there's a much higher risk of getting blood clots from hormonal contraception. Here are the facts. 6 out of the nearly 7 million people who received the Johnson & Johnson vaccine reported a rare and severe type of blood clot. But when it comes to hormonal contraception, the National Blood Clot Alliance reports about 1 out of 300 women who are on the birth control pill are at risk for developing a blood clot. Dr. Monique Ruberu is a Catholic and naprotechnology trained pro-life OB-GYN who has stopped prescribing birth control. She joins us via Skype. Doctor, thank you for being with us. You have a powerful conversion story, and as I mentioned, you have stopped prescribing birth control. How did you come to that decision?
I was so blessed. You know, my marriage was on the brink of divorce, and God stepped in and healed it. And as a result, I wanted to do something to serve him. So I went and I prayed outside of an abortion center. When I was there, I encountered somebody who gave me a book about naprotechnology. And all the time that I had studied for the OB-GYN specialty, I never knew that naprotechnology existed. And so when I read that book, I understood that there was an alternative that I could use instead of the use of contraceptive pills and hormonal contraceptives to address every GYN issue without covering it up like a Band-Aid.
The National Blood Clot Alliance reports 1 in 300 women taking birth control pills are at risk for blood clots. Those risks increase if you have a blood clotting disorder or a family history of blood clots. Doctor, what do women need to know about birth control pills and the risks for blood clots?
They need to know that birth control pills are never solving any issue. Even when they're using them in order to try and avoid pregnancy, they don't have a 100% efficacy rate. Instead, they could use natural family planning methods if they're in a marriage, and in doing so, they can avoid pregnancy by understanding their fertility. Oftentimes, people are taking birth control pills to address a GYN issue like abnormal bleeding or painful cycles. But even in that case, it's not really helping them. It's just acting as a Band-Aid to cover up the issues and the symptoms that they're having. But the minute that they stop those birth control pills, they're going to be dealing with the exact same issue, sometimes in a worse form. And so the recommendation is always to get off of the birth control pills, to understand what the underlying issues are, and to treat them naturally and effectively.
Besides blood clots, what other health risks are associated with hormonal contraception?
Birth control pills can actually cause you to have increased issues with depression and anxiety. It can cause you to have issues with weight gain. There are a lot of people that experience nausea and vomiting when they're doing birth control pills. You can have worsening PMS symptoms that can just tip you completely over the edge. And in addition to that, it can actually cause abortions in patients. They might not even realize it, but that thinning of the uterine lining makes it very difficult for a newly formed pregnancy to implant in that inner lining of the uterus.
Doctor, in hearing all of this, are we as a society just way too cavalier about women's health? When it comes to doctors so widely prescribing birth control, it seems that women's well-being isn't really being considered here.
You know, it's really sad because the majority of gynecologists and family medicine doctors, who are the ones who are prescribing these medications, don't understand that there are alternatives that are completely natural and completely in alignment with your natural body, the way that it works. And rather than shutting down the cycle, you can get to the root of all of these issues and have a wonderful understanding of your fertility at every moment of the month.
Dr. Ruberu, we are both Catholic. The Catholic Catechism is very clear that contraception is morally unacceptable. As a medical professional, as a wife and a mother, what freedom have you found in the Catholic Church's teachings when it comes to contraception and to being open to life?
You know, it's such a beautiful thing to be able to unify with your spouse and to identify those times of fertility in your cycle. And at times, you know, you realize that it might not be the correct time for you to try and conceive, but having that ability to decide when you're going to come together and when you're not going to come together, but at every moment being open to God's will, it's just such a blessing. You never feel like you're denying him, but you're actually just making choices based upon what you know to be true about your fertility. It's just such a freeing and beautiful thing. It helps to strengthen marriage, and it's wonderful.
That's so beautiful. We only have a minute left, but can you give a quick explainer as to what NAPRO technology is for viewers who may not know about that?
Absolutely. NAPRO technology stands for Natural Procreative Technology. It's the use of the Crichton Fertility Care Natural Family Planning method, where people will document their bleeding patterns, their mucus patterns, the length of their cycle. And in doing so, we're able to identify exactly when or if that person is ovulating. And that point of ovulation is used to do scientific testing, to check hormone levels, to understand more about thyroid function as well. And we can, just by looking at the bleeding patterns, we can oftentimes identify issues. Like if you have lower levels of progesterone, you might have tail end brown bleeding at the end of your period. Or if you have endometriosis, you'll have painful cycles and you might have premenstrual spotting. If you have polyps, you might have mid-cycle spotting. So just charting your bleeding patterns, your mucus patterns can tell you so much. It can be used to address every GYN issue as well as fertility issues.
Such an insightful conversation. Thank you so much for your work. Dr. Monique Ruberu, thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much.
Coming up, Planned Parenthood continues to stir up confusion and chaos by announcing members to its so-called Clergy Advocacy Board. I speak out when we return.
And I got to tell you, it felt like the room was spinning out of control. I couldn't believe the words that were coming out of her mouth, but I saw her tears.
Plus, an abortion survivor shares her story of forgiveness and healing.
Life is everything. The elderly, the unborn, the born, all of us. And then there is also spiritual life. See, if I take care of the body and I don't take care of the soul, then there could be a disastrous effect on me.
That's EWTN foundress Mother Angelica speaking as she always did, so boldly and beautifully on life. We celebrate and remember Mother Angelica's birthday this week. She would have turned 98 years old on April 20th. Welcome back to EWTN Pro-Life Weekly. I'm Catherine Hadro. Planned Parenthood announced a new slate of faith leaders for its Clergy Advocacy Board. That is this week's Speak Out segment. The nation's largest abortion provider, Planned Parenthood, is expanding their outreach to religious Americans by adding 9 new members to its Clergy Advocacy Board. This board has operated at Planned Parenthood for decades, but these newest members largely hail from Republican states. The board says they believe that abortion is a matter between a woman, her conscience, and God. There are no Catholic clergy members on this list. There is One rabbi, the Christian denominations include Presbyterian, Unitarian, Lutheran, among others. Here are the names of the 9 members of Planned Parenthood's Clergy Advocacy Board: Reverend Emily Hardin, Reverend Tim Kutzmark, Rabbi Sarah Smiley, Reverend Katie Zay, Reverend Rebecca Todd Peters, Reverend L. Dowd, Reverend Elise Salisbury, Reverend Letitia James Portis, and Reverend Stephen Griffith. Woe to those who call evil good and good evil. While you do not have to be Christian to be pro-life, you cannot be Christian and pro-abortion. Scripture tells us time and time again, only God is the author and creator of life, and that only God can take life. These so-called faith leaders are leading the faithful astray by ignoring what our Lord tells us and endorsing a business that snuffs out life for profit. Planned Parenthood just denounced their founder, Margaret Sanger, in a very public way, but this is evidence they are still implementing her exact same tactics. Part of Sanger's strategy was to convince faith leaders to support abortion and contraception, so they would influence their congregation. She knew she could not convince religious people to support her work unless faith leaders convinced them otherwise. Beware of false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but underneath are ravenous wolves. Abortion survivor Claire Culwell is a face for babies who were not as fortunate as she was. For this week's Pro-Life Focus, Claire opens up in a new way about her journey and the mission God has her on. This well-known pro-life speaker,
my name is Claire Culwell,
survived what most others never will.
I am the surviving twin of a botched D&E dismemberment abortion.
Now, Claire Culwell is revealing those intimate details of her life, which almost wasn't, in her first book, Survivor, an abortion survivor's surprising story of choosing forgiveness and finding redemption.
My hope is that as people read this book, they will know what abortion is, they will know what it does, and they will act on being the hands and feet of Jesus, being that support system for women.
Though Claire's birth was a near-death experience, she did not know that until she was in college. Culwell was adopted as a baby by loving Christian parents. When her adopted sister met with her biological mother, Claire wanted that too. When you met your biological mother, Tanya, for the first time, did you notice similarities right away? What was that like?
Absolutely. I remember the moment she opened the door of this home that we met in for the first time in Dallas, Texas, that was right around the corner from the home my parents brought me home to at 2 months old when they adopted me. And I remember looking at her for the first time and just thinking, that's me.
The similarities did not end with their physical resemblance. Tanya, Claire's biological mother, was a nurse at the time, the very major Claire was studying in school. But it was not until their second meeting, when Claire gifted her birth mother a ring, necklace, and card, that she would learn news that would change her life trajectory.
She opened this ring and this necklace, and she cried happy tears, and then she read the words on a card that I had given her. And what I wrote was, "Thank you for choosing life for me." And I watched as her happy tears from receiving the ring and the necklace, they instantly changed. And she said, "Claire, there's something I need to tell you." She said, "Your life is a miracle, because I had an abortion when I was pregnant with you at 13 years old. And a few weeks went by after the abortion procedure. I was told that my life would go back to normal, but it didn't." And she said she went back to the doctor and they told her that they had successfully aborted one baby, but that she had been pregnant with twins and that I had survived her abortion that successfully ended the life of my twin. And I got to tell you, it felt like the room was spinning out of control. I couldn't believe the words that were coming out of her mouth, but I saw her tears.
Moved to compassion, Claire chose in that moment to forgive her birth mother, Tanya, because she knew the Lord had already done so. That propelled her onto a different path. Claire writes in her book, "After finding out I'd survived an abortion, I developed an interest in pro-life issues. And in time, that interest grew and grew. soon I began telling my story to small groups at schools and churches near me, a major accomplishment for one of the world's quietest introverts. And eventually, telling my life story would become my calling. Culwell is now a frequent speaker at major pro-life events and even testifies on behalf of pro-life legislation.
Those heartbeats turn into somebody that grows up to be somebody like me. And guess what that means? They grow up to be somebody just like you, too.
Claire Culwell, whose life is marked by survival, knows God has her here for a purpose. And Claire's birth mother, Tanya, has found her purpose too, as she has begun shining a light onto what was once her biggest, darkest secret. Here's Tanya in her own words.
Laying there, the doctor, he never one time even spoke to me. Never said a word. Most awesome feeling I've ever felt in my life, to know my baby girl. She's trying to find me.
She has found forgiveness for herself. She has accepted the forgiveness that I have for her, that God has for her. And so she no longer looks at me and thinks, gosh, that was such a heartbreaking moment. She looks at me and thinks, wow, this is our victory story.
Claire, I imagine there's a lot of healing that takes place because of that relationship between you and your biological mother.
There has been. People come up to me all the time and they're like, Claire, because of you, because of the way that you have been able to forgive, because of the way that you shared that God has forgiven you and has forgiven your birth mother, I believe now that my child forgives me, that my God forgives me, and that he can write the same story on my life that he has written on yours.
A story that began with pain has been transformed as Claire Culwell moves forward in her mission of mercy.
I can grapple all day with the fact that my life was spared and my twins wasn't, and what am I missing? And I'll never understand. The only person that understands is the God that wrote this story for me, and he wrote it perfectly, and I can trust in that.
Thank you, Claire, for sharing your witness with us. Claire Culwell's book, Survivor, an abortion survivor's surprising story of choosing forgiveness and finding redemption, will be released on April 27th. That does it for this edition of EWTN Pro-Life Weekly. Until next time, we'd love to hear from you. Find us on social media at EWTN Pro-Life on all social media platforms, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, we're there. You can also send us a message by emailing prolifeweekly@ewtn.com. We love to hear from you. Remember, life is a gift. Your life is a gift. God bless.